Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
It has been said that there are two things that define you: your patience when you have nothing, and your attitude when you have everything. Morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot to call in with our Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, don't let me down. Good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you, Zeb at the Ranch on this Tuesday, May 5th. And good morning, thanks to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. They're open and safe and clean environments for the best in tires and service to your vehicles. You be sure and stop in and see them today. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, let's go to the phone line, very important, and our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow, I like that. And a lot of dynamics there. Appreciate it, my friend. Take care. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Every word of it, too.
I know you did, sir. I know you did. Thank you very much. Wow, great way to get started. Great Pledge of Allegiance. And right now, time for the K&R Rental weather. Oh, my goodness. They got a huge front yard. You drive down maybe about, 150 yards from the highway back into the office, and everything's out there. I mean, they've got the best of tools and equipment for you. Rental for both long and short term. They've got all your gardening equipment, your lawn equipment, rototillers. I'm telling you, it's all there. You better check it out today. Give them a call on the landline, 678-3122, K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunny skies for today, definitely windy for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting a mostly sunny skies for today. It's going to be nice, high of 75. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low 46. Now for tomorrow, we are going to be in a wind advisory, gusts as high as 50 miles an hour out of the west. Steady at about 35 miles an hour, mostly sunny skies, high of 67. Looks like areas of blowing dust for tomorrow night. Before 9 o'clock in the evening, we are expecting a low of 35. Winds are going to be dying down, hopefully, by Thursday. Sunny skies, high of 65. Mostly clear for 39, low of 35. Then by Friday, mostly sunny and 70. That's what's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Wow, tomorrow the good old wind. Good. I hate wind. It's going to get up to 50 miles an hour tomorrow. Look out, Paul, Idaho. Here comes one of my hats. Weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn. Hello, Roger and the crew. K&R Rental. Easy to find right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. Number to call, get information, 678-3122. Holy Holy cow, good morning, everybody. And I want to give a great big shout out again to our friend Kevin Butcher over at Daryl's Cleaners. I hope he's feeling better. And they've got a Facebook page, a GoFundMe page to help him. If you didn't hear, he had a tragic accident, falling off a roof and then onto the tailgate of a pickup and then onto the trailer hitch of a pickup. Ow-wee! Broken ribs, punctured lung, and we say God's blessings to him. He's a dear friend, been so nice to us. Go to the GoFundMe page. Please help them out if you can. And they're also going to have a benefit auction, thanks to the Nostalgia Cafe. So let's all support that, please. Daryl's Cleaners, located at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Absolutely the best of dry cleaning and cleaning your clothes, taking care of them at Daryl's Cleaners. Really good folks. Caller, good morning to you.
Well, good morning to you too, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
You know, you used to be a realtor and probably still are. But how in the world could you sell a house for 2% on your commission?
Well, it's not I wouldn't. I'm just going to say that I wouldn't. My time and everything else is much more valuable, and you have to set some standards. You know, I'll turn the tables on you. You used to be in the automobile business, and you're not in the business to give them away. I believe that we can sit there and we can kind of dicker back and forth a little bit as to the price, and we can have a good time doing it, a little haranguing, but you have a certain level that you have to meet and obtain to run your office and run your bills, pay the lights, pay the water, pay the employees, and that's part of business.
Yeah, and but when you come right down to it, Viv, cost is cost.
Yeah.
And you cannot do anything below cost.
No, I won't.
If you're going to stay in business.
Well, it's like I get a lot of people from around the United States, and this isn't boasting. Please don't take it that way. But I get a lot of businesses to have me do voiceovers for their advertisements on their business and or videos. And I charge a flat fee. Do I negotiate on that fee? No. It's a flat fee. I know what my expenses are. I know what it takes to dub off the voice track to make sure that they get what they want, and I have certain costs. I do not dub or I do not sit back and change any of my fees. It's a flat fee, the same as when you walk into a clothing store, and the price on the Wranglers is the price you pay.
That's true. But, you know, they advertise on TV that they can sell your house for as low as 2%.
Well,
and I think this is where your association should step in.
Well, I'm not going to criticize an industry for the way that they want to try to promote it during a very severe downtime as far as what's moving, what's not moving. I'm not going to get into that, Keith. I'm just not going to do it because I think everybody's got to float their own boat. I have my own set of standards for my business, the rates of my commercials, because I do absolutely personalized work. They're not canned commercials. You hear the same doggone commercial 37 times a day. I don't do that, and I charge a little more, and that's the way it is.
You know, I'm going to tell you a story, and it's true because you only deal in the facts, right?
I try to.
I knew a gentleman that sold real estate, and he made the sale of the 6S Ranch to the Skaggs family, and guess what? His commission was $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of money back then, but you know, it ruined his life because he didn't want to deal with somebody who had a $100,000 house. He wanted the big one. And he, as far as I know,
never was successful after that.
Well, I don't really want to get into stories like that, Keith, because everybody has a story. Everybody has pitfalls, pratfalls, negatives and positives, myself included. And so let's just say that they're doing what they can to exist and survive, and I'll let it go at that. But you always come up with something different in the morning. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I appreciate your call.
One last comment. Always be honest in your dealings, and you'll do fine.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Appreciate that. Call back later, Keith, and don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. That's the number to call. These are people that have been in business almost 7 decades. Holy smokes. They understand what's going on. They're not the new kids on the block. That's not a singing group. Anyway, I'll guarantee you that they know what they're doing 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday, serving you with all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, and all is the key word. They know, they can, and they will help you. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927. 4587. Also, our thanks go out to our dear friends at Dino's Septic Service, and I really mean dear friends. They know their stuff. They know what they're doing, and they know how to serve you with fast, fair-friendly service, whether it's septic tank pumping or whether it's septic and drain fields installed or water and sewer lines installed, liquid waste removal, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned, all of this and so much more. I urge you to call 436-6526 or 678-1638. Dino's Septic Service. Absolutely. With a big truck that says, smells cargo on the way, Dino's Septic Service. I have a question this morning, and I really want you folks to call and tell me, because I'm totally shocked over what appears to be the numbers, okay? I do not understand. I do not comprehend how Joe Biden can supposedly be in the lead in various polls for the presidential election in November over President Trump, and in some of the polls, like in Michigan and Wisconsin, be in the lead by as many as 5 or 6 points in the lead. Now, please help me on this. Joe Biden can't even construct 2 legible, comprehensible sentences, and he leads President Trump? How in the world? And some of the real Washington insiders are saying that Joe Biden is or has already selected. Now, I'm not saying this on my behalf. Please don't say, Zeb said this. Some of the Washington insiders, and I've called and talked to some of them, are saying that he's already made his VP pick. And some have told me yesterday on the phone, it's Elizabeth Warren. Now, if that doesn't send a whole tray of ice cubes down the back of your shirt, I don't know what would. Whoo! You talk about goodbye America. Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren, I'm telling you, most of the people I know are going to have nightmares tonight. Caller, stand by. I promise you're up next on our hit parade of phone calls. I want to remind everybody about Nature Nursery and Market. Hey, they're having a great Big Mama's Day sale. Mother's Day this weekend. Please honor your mom. Go to Nature Nursery and Market at 120 East Highway 81 in Burley, and the sale starts Thursday, goes Friday and Saturday. I'll tell you, they've got 10% off all the hanging basket and select trees, 15% off home decor, and if you spend $150 or more, you get a free gift. You better go in and talk to the really, really nice people that serve you for Mother's Day. Nature Nursery and Market, 120 East Highway 81 in Burley, number 261-3377. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Do you remember 4 years ago today when the polls showed Hillary Clinton as winning by a landslide?
Oh, yeah.
And I'll bet it's going to be just the same with old Biden.
You know, though, Rodney, think about this, though, please. We have seen some dastardly deeds being performed by the left Democrats. We have seen some really under-the-table sleaze performed by our own FBI. We have seen some absolutely heinous investigations with the Mueller report and the possible impeachment and everything else. And then we have seen the release of the coronavirus. All of this, I honestly and truly believe, and nobody's going to change my mind, are all indictments from the left to go after President Trump.
Well, if you're looking for an argument from me, you're looking in the wrong place. Because I believe you're right, in fact. They've made it clear that they won't stop at nothing to get him. In fact, I saw now I can't verify that this is true, but I saw a deal on one talk show where they said that someone even had plotted to try to assassinate Trump by infecting him with COVID.
Yeah, I heard those reports, and, you know, those are the kind of things, and I'm glad you said you prefaced your remarks by saying you don't know if it's true or not, because I will not deal in speculation, and I will not deal in anything that, oh, he said, she said, they said, whatever. I won't do that, but I had read about that rumor, so I'll just let it go at that.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to know if that rumor is true or not, though.
Well, we all would, and if it is, I'll certainly put it forth. Rodney, God bless you for your call. Thank you so much.
Yep. Stay safe.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. How can Joe Biden, with everything that's coming down around him with his Chinese connections with his son, and, oh, China's not a threat. He said that thousands of times. I have got a stack of emails and a stack of the news stories that they go into all the different times Biden has been quoted as saying, China's never going to be a threat. No. Well, if they're not, Joe, I'd like to know why we're sitting in such a precarious position this morning. And this guy is absolutely losing it. The basketball's bouncing towards him, but he can't catch it. Caller, stand by. I'm going to be right with you. I want to remind everybody about Certified Pest Control and our good friend Kevin. I absolutely think this guy and his business are the best. And I've said this many times on the air, but a couple of years ago when the mice and vole problems, everybody had problems. He came like the Pied Piper, and he got rid of them. I mean, this guy is good. Certified Pest Control, and now they're offering a spider and bug treatment starting at just $39.95, and I'll guarantee you can keep those pests away. You get a hold of them today. Book an appointment by going to avoidbugs@gmail.com. Avoidbugs@gmail.com. Certified Pest Control, absolutely the best. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again. You know, this deal between Biden and Kavanaugh, the difference, the doggone Democrats are saying, well, Kavanaugh's deal was merely a job application.
Oh, baloney.
To be on the Supreme Court. Get real.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. When there's a discernment as to what is right, what is wrong, and how you apply it, and how you twist the rules to try to make somebody look better than the other, even though the same circumstances are prevailing, that's idiocy and incompetency. And the Democrats right now, it just bothers me, Keith, to think that common knowledge in this country. Look, we had 2 months ago, you were calling in on this program, and we were talking about the strongest economy ever in the history of the United States. Things were going great. The stock market looked like a rocket ship going into outer space. Everything was going great. Then all of a sudden, they couldn't get him on the impeachment. But here comes the dastardly deed and deadly force of the coronavirus. Bam! And in 2 months' time, our country has been shut down. Just what they wanted.
let me tell you the difference between Kavanaugh and Biden. Honesty.
Well, I think that's one of them.
An honest bone in his body.
Well, I'd go a step further. I'd say honesty, integrity, and intellect far, far in excess of what Biden possesses. Joe Biden, to me, has never been a real bright person, especially when he got up on the podium with Obama that time and used the F-bomb that was picked up by the microphone and went all over the world. I don't like Joe Biden.
Yeah, like he's going to beat President Trump like a drum.
Yeah.
He talks, and taking him in the back alley and giving him a good thrashing.
Yeah.
But that guy is a bloomin' idiot.
Well, you're not being fair to the bloomin'. I got to run, Keith. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You bet.
All right. Take care. Thank you. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Can you honestly imagine waking up the day after the elections this fall? Now, think about this. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to create a horror movie. But waking up early in the morning like I do at 4 a.m. and turning on the television set and seeing a banner go across the bottom of the TV set screen and hear the newscasters say, Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren are going to take over in January as leading the United States of America. I mean, my first impulse would be to turn the TV off and just scurry under the covers and pull them over my head and go, oh, goodbye, America. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, and if they even replace old Joe, which I think they will, I'm going to make an estimate here that Joe Biden may be gone. Adios, amigo. Hit the trail by the end of June. You know, the Democratic Party is in total disarray. And how can they be leading over a president that had the strongest economy ever in the history of this country? You got to help me, folks. Call me. Let me know. Maybe I'm not looking at something, please. Wheels, can we have this good word about the May 19th primaries?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Representative Fred Wood to explain this year's voting by mail.
All citizens who are registered to vote will receive postcards by mail from the Secretary of State within the next 2 weeks. Please fill out this application to request your absentee ballot, then mail. When you receive your ballot, vote and mail according to instructions prior to May 19th. Please vote absentee ballot prior to May 19th, paid for Fred Wood campaign.
And I want to urge you folks to get your ballots. Next week, Fred and I are going to be really hammering and yammering for everybody to get their ballots, and it's really not hard at all. It's a simple little page to fill out, send it in for your ballots, and the security and safety is there for the return of your ballots. But please, we are doing it different this year. I'll come right out and say I don't like it, but we're going to do it. We're going to make it work, and so therefore, please get your ballots for the May 19th primaries, please. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, a dear friend of ours, and he is, and that's Doug at Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair at 635 21st Street in Heyburn. This business is for sale. Now, you don't have to worry about bringing this in, bringing that in, putting the walls up, the roof, all this. You get the key. You get the key. It's a turnkey operation. It's all there. It's up and running. Holy moly. And Doug will also train the new buyer of the business. You can't beat that with a stick. Please get a hold of him today. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair. The shop number 878-4991 or after hours 431-5282. A great business opportunity for you. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair, 635 21st Street in Heyburn. All right, come on, give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I am really surprised a lot of you don't want to comment on Joe Biden. I'm scared of this guy. I'm scared of what he represents. I'm scared of what he can't do anymore. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. And regarding the polls, I always worry about the questions that's asked, because you know that the answer is predicated on the question that's asked, and they never reveal their questioning, and so that always makes me suspicious of the data that comes out of those polls.
Let me say and reiterate a point you just made. You questioned the data. Well, I can sit, and you can too, especially you, because you're much more knowledgeable than I am. But you can sit and ask a 10-word question, and you can rephrase that 10-word question in multiple ways so that it always comes up with a different meaning or answer. Would you agree with that?
I would agree completely, and you can reword it so that you get the answer you want.
Amen. That's it, right there. You can get the answer you want. It's not the answer that's honest or legible most of the time. It's the answer that they want for these polls so they can say, gotcha.
And they're just trying to build momentum, and I think it's just like was mentioned earlier. It's the same thing they did in 16, so it's just part of their game plan.
But let me ask you a question. Right here, and I know you know politics, and we've talked many, many times. What does it make you feel mentally when you think about possibly the ticket of Biden and Warren with their far, far left approach to green energy, free college, a living wage given and sent out by the government to all, a complete socialist venue? I mean, doesn't that just make you start to shiver?
It worries me a great deal, and especially after this COVID thing that swept the country, and I think it's been blown out of proportion. I think there'll be grabs at our rights, and we'll pay a price if that happens.
I totally agree with you, and I'm going to ask you a favor to please call in more often. I always look forward to visiting with you, sir. You're a dear friend. Thank you so much.
Take care, man.
God bless. Thank you. That man has been a dear friend of this program for a long time. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Talking about Joe Biden, the guy can't answer his own questions if he writes them and asks them. He never can complete a sentence thoroughly that makes sense. I haven't seen him talk coherently for any length of time to make any sense at all. My worry is not if he wins what he's going to do. It's, well, first of all, if he actually wins the election, who's going to be making the decisions? Because he obviously doesn't have the mental capacity to do so. And I'm afraid that if he does make the ticket and is elected president, how long before somebody on the left or some other group start saying, well, he's incompetent to hold office, so we're going to go ahead and put the vice president in and relieve him of his duties. And there's always these little conspiracies that can happen, but for crying out loud, yeah, it's either which way you go, and Trump wins again, there's going to be another uphill battle like in 2016. They're going to try and take it one way or the other, and that's the stressful part for me.
Well, and your words, they're going to try to take it one way or the other. I think those are words that will live on up until November. And the reason I like those words that you just said, they will try to take it one way or the other, they have been doing that since he put his hand on the Bible at the beginning of his presidency. They've gone after Trump. They've done everything they could to create logistics that would go after Donald Trump and bury his presidency. And I'm still going to maintain, and you people out in the audience that want to call me a redneck right-winger, go ahead and call me a redneck right-winger, because I'm going to advocate that this whole thing with the coronavirus, the entirety of it, is another ploy to absolutely destroy Donald Trump.
I wholeheartedly agree. The only thing I can disagree with you about is I don't think it was from the moment he put his hand on his Bible. It was after the election, the day after, when they realized that Trump had won. And from then on, the Obama administration at that point in time and everybody else involved already started the wheels in motion of doing everything they could to destroy the man.
Absolutely.
Before he ever took oath,
I agree.
I really think that's what they were working on.
And I would concur with you on that.
Wonderful day. May the God bless you.
All right, sir. I would concur with that. Thank you, Riley. I appreciate it. Caller, stand by. I'll be right there. I promise. I will not keep you waiting. I've got to do this, and I want to tell everybody about Barry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin with Eli and the crew, and the Nampa location. Oh, they got an inventory. All the Bobcats, all the trenchers, all the scissor lifts. Have you ever tried to do that? Say the word trenchers real fast and then start with scissor lifts right after it. And your lips kind of get like Gorilla Glue on the end of them. Anyway, don't forget, too, they've got all the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators. For all the lifting, digging, pushing, and carrying, they can help you. You betcha, with all the equipment you need. Whether you want to buy it or lease it, they've got great programs. Barry Equipment and Rental. Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. You stop in and see them today and check out the trenchers and the scissor lifts. There you go. I got it done. Calls welcome, and here's one right now. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, my friend.
Yeah, I agree with Riley and you, but I think it started before the date of the election. I think it started when they seen that he was going to be the Republican nominee, and they didn't want someone to come back there that they couldn't bribe, blackmail to get them to do what they wanted them to do.
Well, okay, really, and I'm not trying to sound curt with you when I say this, but what difference does it make if it was then or when he came down the escalator or when the election took place or when he put his hand on the Bible? It's been a concentrated effort to destroy him.
Exactly. Destroy him, destroy his credibility. And that's what they've been trying to do, and it's coming out more and more, like in this Flynn deal and everything else. And all these newspapers and anchors and columnists that got those Pulitzer Prize for their research and digging into the Russian collusion.
Oh, yeah.
Does that tell you what that Pulitzer Prize stands for?
Well, why wasn't it given back?
They can't. Look at Obama. Why doesn't he give back the Nobel Peace Prize? Because he did nothing for peace.
Well, see, that's the whole point of my asking that. Why don't they give it back? If the information to win a Pulitzer Prize is fraudulent and was filled with errors and absolute misgivings, why aren't they forced to give it back and go hide in the corner and say, oops, I'm sorry?
They should be. They should be called out. But anyway, and with Joe Biden and the polls showing that he's winning, I remember the exit polls on the election with President Trump and Hillary. I remember the exit polls, and everybody was all giddy that Hillary was winning in the exit polls. But yet, come to find out, Hillary rigged the primary and rigged the election. I don't know how much voter fraud there was in that election in 2016, but she did, and she lost.
Hey, let me ask you a question, and I just mentioned this a little bit on the air the other day, but there was a small, and it's unfortunate that it was really a small article in the paper the other day, about 5-6 days ago, and the headline of the paper said, "Citizenship proof can't be required." And then the first couple of lines, listen to this, and I want you to respond to this, because this just makes me so irate, I want to punch a hole in the bathroom door. A federal appeals court panel ruled Wednesday that Kansas can't require voters to show proof of citizenship when they register to vote. What is the matter with this country?
Well, that just shows right there, these judges and these people are making these decisions do not hold the Constitution up. They do not uphold it. They do not back the Constitution, because you have to be a citizen of the United States to vote in a United States election, period.
But the Democrats are coming out later on in the article and they say, these Republican-led efforts are actually meant to suppress turnout from groups. They're after. What in the world are we coming to when you can't prove? I don't mind at all. going in to vote, and I know you don't either because you've mentioned it one time on our program. I don't mind at all when somebody says to me, we see your license or your ID, whatever. I'm proud to show it when I go to vote. And for anybody else to say that, oh, it's not required or it shouldn't be required, I'm just going to say this very succinctly. The hell it shouldn't be.
Well, it's required in Mexico and other countries. You have to show an ID to vote. Why can't we do it here?
Amen.
And I've seen a video of I can't remember who the reporter was, but he was talking about how the Democrats are saying the black communities don't have access to everything and they can't get IDs and stuff. And he talked to several white people, and that's what they were talking. So he went down in a black community, and I don't know what town it was, but he was talking to the blacks, and everybody there says, I got a smartphone, I got Wi-Fi, I got an ID. It's not suppressing me.
Yeah. I don't know, Doug, but when I saw these reports and studied some of their polls, I just thought to myself, what is the matter with our education system? That on a nationwide basis, we're not teaching these kids about the Constitution. We're not teaching these kids about really all the blood, sweat, and tears and suffering that has gone into what we have today. And now in this next election, there may be an opportunity that we're going to throw it all away. We're going to trash it and throw it in the garbage pile and go with the left, with the green energy and the socialistic ideas. Everything's free. We're just going to tax the American taxpayer to death. All of this. What happened to us?
Well, what's happened to us is 50 years ago or more, we let the government take over the education system. And when you have a government controlling the education system, the government will teach the youth what the government wants them to know.
Amen. That is really the truth. That is really the truth.
And what I've said and what I've read one time, and this is a fact, it says the reason you are not taught all of your rights because they are easier to take away if you do not know what they are.
Yeah, when I saw these polls, and I think it was the Michigan poll that showed that Joe Biden was up like 6 points, which is a large percentage of points ahead over Trump in Michigan. I sat there and I sat back and scratched my head and said, how? How in the world, and what is the thinking of people? It just doesn't make any sense at all to me. One other thing I wanted you to comment on before you go, and then I got to do a weather forecast, so don't take too long. Did you hear about that hornet they call the murder hornet that is in our neighbor state of Washington? This dude is over 2 inches long, and it's called the murder hornet, with an appetite to go in and destroy and kill honeybees, and also human beings if the human gets stung. I mean, this dude is really ugly. Did you see it?
I did, and I just read an article on it and sent it to you. It said there's over 50-some people a year die in Japan. This is where it come from.
Yeah.
And the hornet itself, that showed a close-up of it, and it looks nasty.
It looks like something that would be created for a Star Wars movie, doesn't it?
Exactly. And this one beekeeper there, they found a hive somewhere up north in Washington, and he was going in at night. He put on sweatpants and a bee suit and put Kevlar on his ankles and his wrists and stuff. And the flashlight woke the hornet nest up.
Oh, boy.
And he got stung, and he says it was like somebody pushing a hot thumbtack into his leg.
All I know is that I'd like to get Steve Staley on the air from Oakley. He's a great beekeeper, and he understands bees and everything. But I understand that bees, colonies of bees, are used to kill these hornets. Now, how they got here, nobody seems to really know how they got here to the United States, but they need to be wiped out. And it sounds to me like they're growing in power up in Washington State by a town called Blaine, Washington, and these dudes are bad dudes, and I got to go to the weather. Doug, thank you so much.
Hey, anyway, everybody, we can't go eat at the senior centers yet, but let's help them out what we can. Let's volunteer, let's donate, because if they don't sell the meals, they don't get the federal government money to help keep them open.
Amen. Amen, Doug. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Caller, I'm going to ask your indulgence just a minute. 1 minute. Be with us. I'm going to have the weather on right now. And May is Better Hearing Month. And for better hearing, don't forget our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Hearing is essential for all communication. It allows us to feel connected to others, understand important messages, convey how we feel. And if you can't hear, you're going to miss so much in life. And if you've noticed your hearing being on a diminishment scale, you'd better get a hold of Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids today. Number to call, 312-0957. They can help you. They're right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room, serving your hearing health. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. Here's Gina with the weather.
Sunny skies for today, definitely windy for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting a mostly sunny skies for today. It's going to be nice, high of 75. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low 46. Now for tomorrow, we are going to be in a wind advisory, gusts as high as 50 miles an hour out of the west. Steady at about 35 miles an hour, mostly sunny skies, high of 67. Looks like areas of blowing dust for tomorrow night. Before 9 o'clock in the evening, we are expecting a low of 35. Winds are going to be dying down, hopefully, by Thursday. Sunny skies, high of 65. Mostly clear for 39, low of 35. Then by Friday, mostly sunny and 70. That's what's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. 48 degrees outside the Zeb at the Ranch studio right now. And don't forget our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And I know they've helped me, and they can help you with any of your hearing health problems. Please, again, I reiterate, give them a call at 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Caller, you have been so patient. Thank you very much.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Oh, stop right there.
Not hearing anything about.
Stop right there, Tony. Is today the day?
Pardon?
I said, is today the day?
No.
This isn't your birthday? This isn't your birthday today?
No, May 15th.
May 5th. Deanne, if you're listening in the other room, my dear sweet wife, would you please, in bold red letters, we've missed it twice now. We thought it was earlier, I think like in April, we goofed. Then we thought it was today, May 5th, but it's May 15th. All right, we'll take this as it is. Doggone it, you get more happy birthdays than anybody else I know. Happy birthday.
Well, I haven't been getting $100 for each one of those days, so I guess I'm losing out on it.
Go ahead, Tony, please.
Hey, one thing we're not hearing about is how many crooked deals have Joe Biden set up for his son, Hunter?
Yeah.
And you want a guy like this for president?
You know, you bring up a really good point. Because of the coronavirus, which again I think has trumped, and I'm not saying this is anything slanderous against President Trump, but the coronavirus has trumped all other news. I mean, we don't hear that much about North Korea. We don't hear that much about any other world problems. We're not hearing that much about immigration, illegal or otherwise. All the virus is on the news. And the main thing that we're not doing right now, and the media is really lax on, is investigative reporting for the American public. Hunter Biden is a sleaze. Hunter Biden has done so many things under the table, and he's Joe Biden's boy. I want to find out more about what's going on.
Oh, I really get disgusted when I hear this guy. The Democratic Party's got his set up as being a saint of some kind. He's a sexual prowler like a lot of these other people that are out there in politics. He's no different.
Well, have you seen, and I know you have, some of the pictures that were put together in kind of a potpourri of what Joe Biden does and says when he's on the campaign trail, and some of the ways that he approaches other women, and the way that he puts his arms around them, and the way that he gives them kisses, or puts his hands on their head and through their hair? I mean, come on, Joe. Doesn't look good.
Well, the thing of it is, if they don't do what he wants them to do, their career is finished. And that's the way it is with these dirty politicians.
Well, I can't argue with you. I just absolutely am appalled that Joe Biden even has 2% showing on the polls, let alone being ahead in some of these polls. All right, so I'm going to say this one more time. We celebrated your birthday in March. We goofed. We celebrated your birthday today. We goofed. And when your birthday comes up on May 15th, it's going to be like, oh, yeah, here we go again. Happy birthday, Tony. God bless you.
Well, they got me set up for 270 years old, you know.
All right. God bless you. Thank you much. Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Oh, I tell you, I love those people. They're so, so nice. Yesterday, just to give you a little bit more news away from the virus, yesterday, one of the greatest coaches of football passed away at the age of 90. And I'm talking about a man they called the coach, and that was Don Shula. He coached the only unbeaten season in the NFL, and that was with the Miami Dolphins back in 1972. And whether you're a football fan or not, to go undefeated for a whole season in the pros, where the old saying comes up, on any given Sunday, somebody else can whoop you. They never did in 1972. The Dolphins were absolutely invincible. And Don Shula was the coach, died at 90 years of age yesterday. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to say something about some people that I mean this because they are so dedicated and helpful. I am not going to talk about other legislators in other districts or other parts of the state. I'm going to talk about what's going on right here. We are so blessed with Speaker Scott Bedke, Representative Fred Wood, Senator Kelly Anthon. I, in my radio career, have never, underline that word never worked with better people that were so energetic and willing to jump in and help. Are they paying for this? Nope. I'm giving it to them because they deserve it. It's easy to criticize politics. Oh, boy, is it easy to criticize politics. And it's easy to criticize politicians, but I will not. These gentlemen have jumped in and really been an asset, and I appreciate them. And there's another man I'm going to throw in the fray. And I mean this when I say it, and he is an accountant with Phillips Oakes, Goodwin, Crane and Company, and I'm talking about Lyden Crane. I don't think my wife and I have ever met a young man in the business world that has been this outstanding to serve and be knowledgeable and helpful. And I think Lyden Crane falls right into that mix with the people I aforementioned, Senator Bedke, or Speaker of the House Bedke, Senator Anthon, and Representative Wood. We are blessed in this area to have some really great people, and I mean that. Here's another one that's running for county commissioner over in Minidoka County, and I know this man, and he's a good guy. Kent McClellan for Minidoka County Commissioner. He's been 10 years as Minidoka County Commissioner, and he wants your vote May 19th in the primaries. He's been the Region 4 Development Board member for 8 years, and absolutely local businessman. And I'll tell you what, he knows that this year the primary election is going to be held by mail, and he wants your vote. We're talking about Kent McClellan for Minidoka County Commissioner. He wants to continue on serving you. And don't forget to go online, idahovotes.gov, and get your ballot. idahovotes.gov, get your ballot and vote. Don't forget, May 19th primaries. And Clint McClellan running for Minidoka County Commissioner. And this ad paid for by John A. Burt Stevenson. And don't forget to vote on the primaries. Calls welcome, 436. Holy smokes, I'm almost out of time. What happened to this first hour? And anyhow, next hour, we've got Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance coming on the program. He's going to talk to us about the gas prices and what's going on with green energy and everything. Then at 9:30 this morning, I'm very fortunate to have the author of the book, Why We Must Defend the Electoral College. Trent England is going to be on the air. This is a sharp guy, and we're going to be talking about what the insidious left is trying to do to get rid of the Electoral College and just turn upside down our voting in this country. And 10:06, Dr. History, and then at 10:32 this morning, Karen Strawn going to be talking about Joe Biden and his escapades. Don't go away. Zeb at the Ranch. Wheels, take it to news. I'll be right back. Oh, listen to that piano. I love that song. Good morning. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations are open and serving you with safe, clean environment and the best in tires. Stop in and see them today, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you, and Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Hey, Wheels, I don't know what you did, but it's a lot better today. Don't you move a thing, old buddy. And right now, let's have this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh, I tell you what, they are so good at serving you, getting rid of your garbage. Nobody likes garbage. Nobody likes the trash laying around. And for those that might have just moved into this area, what are we going to do with the garbage? We'll just call Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Get on the route service. They are always at your disposal. Remember the name, Western Waste Services. Wheels, could we please have the information on the May 19th primaries?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, to explain this year's voting by mail.
This year it's going to be a little different. You will be getting an absentee ballot request form in the mail. Fill it out. Send it in. Then the county clerk will send you an absentee ballot form. This is how you vote. Fill it out. Mail it in by May 19th. If you have other questions, don't hesitate to call your county clerk's office. Paid for by Bedke for Idaho.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, also a quick reminder about, I know a business that absolutely is, every day they get up, they are bent on serving you to get you back to being you. And that's Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, with Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists. They don't want you kind of gimping and limping along. They don't want you all hunched over. They don't want you to sit in that chair and go, oh, I'd like to do it, but it hurts too much. You better take care of yourself. Give them a call, 678-1191. Make an appointment and let them help you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. They are absolutely the best. When you say the word best, I mean this old boy perks up his ears because he is the best at what he talks about, and that's energy, and that's, of course, with the American Energy Alliance, my buddy Dan Kish. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, Zeb. With that kind of an introduction, how could I be anything but?
Well, enter stage left with a pumpkin pie. Good morning. It's good to have you on this. It's good to have you on the program. Hey, I got to ask you a question. You are back. You live in Virginia. Is that correct?
Well, I live in D.C., actually. I live on Capitol Hill in Washington. And sometimes I visit Virginia.
I see. Do you have every day in your newspapers and in your magazines and on television all these flowery, fluffy, little sun-filled advertisements that show cute little bunnies and birds and everything when they start talking about green energy? Isn't that the biggest joke you ever saw in your life?
Yeah, Zeb. I mean, the local newspaper here is the Washington Post, so you can imagine.
Oh, boy.
But there are other newspapers, and I tend to read them instead. We call it the Washington Compost, but that's a few of us. And, my neighbors would get upset. But, yeah, this stuff's been getting a free ride for a long, long time. And that's what was so funny about the matter we discussed last week about Michael Moore's new movie that just dissects this. It basically says the same thing that we've said for a long time, that this stuff is neither clean nor green. A huge amount of it is imported from places like Red China. And we probably ought to be worried about plugging electronic devices into our grid when they all tell us that our grid is open for anybody to tap into.
Yeah.
When the very devices they're selling to us that go on people's roofs and with these utility scale solar projects cover acres and acres and acres of ground are being plugged into our grid. I don't know about you, but that doesn't seem to make much sense. But I'm just poor old country boy at heart.
Yeah, but this Shirley Temple-ish, the Good Ship Lollipop, all the cutesy little bunny rabbits and birds, everything's perfect with green energy. What a farce! But yet the American public is buying into it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the amazing part, well, they buy into it. I give the American public, listen, folks shouldn't have to worry about this. They're supposed to have people who are elected who watch out and make sure that these bad things don't happen. And that's who we elect representatives for. And if they aren't doing their job, then we don't get the story properly. And, of course, for those people who are cashing in on it, I mean, guys like, you remember Tom Steyer was running for president on his green energy platform and the Green New Deal and all the rest. Michael Bloomberg, the same way. These are billionaires who make a lot of money off Red China and somehow push policies that happen to benefit Red China, since they supply 80% of the solar panels in the world.
Yeah.
And they just come in by the shipload, and local policies say put them up. In California, if you build a new house now, the law is you have to have solar panels on your roof. It doesn't say anything about where they come from, and since 80% of them come from China, I'd say it's a pretty good bet that a lot of them come from China.
Okay, but wait a minute. Back up a minute. Help me. I'm just an old cowboy from Idaho. When you buy property in California, let's say that you buy property out by old Clovis, California, or up the road a while to Red Bluff, or whatever the case might be. And supposedly that's your property, and you're going to build your home. Where in the world does it say that the government has the right to come in and say you will put up solar panels? I mean, where is it written that this has to be an edict? Please help me on this.
Well, this is up to the states, and the state of California, Governor Newsom and all the rest of them over there have decided that for all new housing in California, it has to include solar panels on the roof.
This is insane.
So if you want a building permit, you're going to have solar panels on your roof.
That's not a free America at all, and you know it.
Nope. Doesn't seem like that to me, but hey, that's a place where people can't even go to the beach. So,
yeah.
Go figure.
Well, you mentioned Governor Bothersome. Oh, excuse me, I missaid the name, Governor Newsom. But this guy has got to be replaced. I mean, what he has done, what his administration is doing in the state of California. I've got friends that live in California in the outer areas, not in Sacramento, not in San Francisco or L.A., but really the real towns, Bakersfield, Red Bluff, Clovis, you name it, Visalia, and they are so fed up with the rules and regulatory means, they can't afford to make a living down there anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's face it. California is becoming like a third world country in a lot of ways. It's got enormously wealthy people. They're clutch along the coast and in the big cities. And they don't really make anything. The people that make things are in other parts of the state. And by the way, a lot of the money they made was doing business with communist China.
Yeah.
Selling products, importing things. You know, we'd move factories from the United States over to China, and then the people that are making all this money were trading that money for stuff that used to be made in the United States. It's now made in China, and that's how they got rich. Same way in New York. A lot of that money was made from cheap labor and almost slave conditions in China. And people are now beginning to question that. You'd think it would have occurred to them a long time ago. But the people in California voted for this. I mean, this is what they consistently vote for. It's amazing to me because I know a lot of good people in California work hard, try to get ahead, and just smack their foreheads because of over-regulation and all the rest. The best we can do, Zeb, if we're not living there, I think, is make sure that the same thing doesn't happen in our own backyards. Because, believe me, there's a lot of people who want to move those same sort of ideas into your neck of the woods, and of course I live in Washington D.C. where I can even get a plastic straw, so it's the same thing here.
Yeah, and you're so right. I mean, our own Idaho Power is coming out with these great little, beautiful little homes and partly cloudy skies with the sun breaking through and bunny rabbits and flowers in the yards. And, oh, it's just so wonderful. But yet when you call them and ask them to come on the radio and discuss their so-called green energy program, bang! The door is slammed, and they won't talk to me. Golly, these are nice people.
Yeah, I mean, Zeb, what's happened is a lot of these people have said, listen, if we can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make $1 off it along the way, and that's what's been going on. It's happening throughout the country. And all I can say is that as the amount of renewable energy goes up, despite the fact that the sources of most of our electricity, the price of them has gone down, as the price of renewable energy goes up in those states that require it to be put in, their bills go up accordingly, even though the bulk of their... they would be going up more rapidly if the price of natural gas hadn't been going down to fire natural gas turbine power plants, and that's what's happening across the country. And people's eyes glaze over when you talk about the numbers, but they don't glaze over when your utility bill comes. And as you watch that utility bill creep up, maybe some people will wake up and say, "Wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture?"
Yeah, what did we do? You know, there's another group I want you to comment on, and we have talked about this in the past, but I'm lumping them all together, and I'm throwing them in the same gunny sack, hopefully to be thrown in the river, but the environmental groups. I mean, where are they? Where are they protecting the beauty and the aesthetic value of America? Where are they to make sure that, the vision is clear to the mountains? Where are they to watch the birds on the shores and the cliffs of the river? Because now they're replaced with these ugly windmills and solar farms. Where are they?
Well, they're busy tearing down zero-emission hydroelectric dams on our rivers, and they're more concerned about things like that. It's almost like if it works, they don't want it. If it makes us more reliable on the Chinese, that's good. If we become self-reliant in energy, as the United States did last year for the first time since 1957, we actually produced more energy than we consumed of our own, and so we finally get there. And what they want to do is turn their back. That's what's so powerful about the Michael Moore film, because he comes at it from a left-wing position. I mean, his position is that people shouldn't be allowed to have any more children, and that there's way too many people on Earth and all the rest. It doesn't matter what we do, we're going to mess it up. It's a very negative outlook on life that shouldn't surprise anyone. But what he does along the way is get after some of those sacred cows, if you will, that the green left has been pushing for a long time.
Yeah.
By saying this is green energy. And I'll tell you what these environmental groups are doing in many cases, Zeb, is working as PR firms for the people that donate money to them. A lot of these solar and wind companies and outfits like that actually give money that can't be seen, in large measure, to these groups. They then go out and push for the products that they like for different reasons. I mean, the people who in the companies want to make money. The environmental groups themselves just basically want to break the system, make electricity prices go higher, because they realize the one thing that'll make people use less energy, which they have a problem with, is by making its price go up. And so every device they use to push forward, whether it's wind farms, solar panels, whatever it may be, makes the price go up. That makes them happy, and they've got companies that make these products or import them from China that are willing to pay them to do their PR.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me talk to you a little bit about the pump prices. Not help me on this, but I think, and you know so much more about this than I would, I think the national average right now for regular unleaded, I think, is like, what, $1.78 in that area, Dan? But regardless...
That rings a bell, Zeb. I haven't looked at it in the last few days, so I don't know where it's headed. I know it's headed down.
Well, the thing I'm saying about the pump price, and I've advocated this, to heck with the coronavirus. Get in your car with your family and go and see your state. Go and see your region. We may never see gas prices this low ever again. And by burning that fossil fuel and enjoying your life, you are also helping an industry that we can't afford to have flounder or fail. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, Zeb, I've talked to people who are thinking about, with their kids out of school and everything, renting an RV.
Yep.
These are folks that don't own one, and taking the kids on a cross-country trip.
Yep.
It's safe. There's enough open now that folks could do that, and good time to see a lot of the national parks and that sort of thing, national forests, and get away with the family better than being cooped up at home.
You know, Dan, let me ask you this, though. We're roughly 6 months away from the election. And you've always been a straight shooter and answering all the questions on here. When you stop and ponder what the left wants to do, regardless of whether it's Biden or whomever, what they want to do to absolutely destroy our energy program in America. What are your biggest concerns leading up to this election? I mean, what are you worried about that, oh boy, we got to protect this and we got to get out and support the Trump administration to make sure he's reelected? What are your major concerns?
Well, Zeb, it's across the board. I mean, let's face it. President Trump is the one guy who was out there screaming about these Chinese imports of all kinds well before we had the Wuhan flu introduced. He's been arguing that we've been selling off our manufacturing capability, our food production capability, our all of these things, and that we ought to be doing more of this at home with American hands and American hearts, basically. And that simply, and to be honest with you, that was bipartisan. There were a lot of people making a lot of money off this. This offshoring of American production capability. We do things better than anybody else in the world, and we blaze a trail, and there's no reason for us to be shipping these things off. And that's what he had been talking about. And I fear that if he is not reelected, then there will be people elected who don't seem to care as much about whether or not the United States remains the number one country in the world.
I agree.
And I think that is a legacy that we can't afford to leave to our kids and our grandkids. I think that is a terrible legacy.
I agree.
We worked hard to get to be number one. Americans will work hard if given the chance, and if their government will let them. And we're the best, brightest hope for humankind on life. We've seen what the Chinese will do if they were in charge. They did not share the information about this flu and let it spread throughout the world while they were gobbling up all the world's protective gear.
Yes.
And hiding the ball. And that's just not something that would happen in the United States.
I will jump in and say, to go along with what you said, and I don't care who criticizes me, I have a right to speak out, and speak out I will. The Chinese government is the epitome of evil, and I absolutely have no use for that government. Dan, as usual, you put forth your best foot again this morning. God bless you, Dan Kish, American Energy Alliance, a dear friend of this program. Enjoy, my friend. We'll talk to you next week. God bless you.
God bless, Zeb.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I really enjoy having him on. He's just such a nice guy. Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance. Thank you so much. Holy moly, let's pay some bills here real quick. Let's tell everybody about our dear friend Joel Heward and his family and his staff at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. There is no time. There is no time that is more up in the air. You don't know what to do. You don't know what has to be done. When there's the passing of a loved one, it's tumultuous. And, boy, you need some real guidance. And that's where these folks come in and serve you and your family with the best possible support and comfort, and always with the highest ethical standards and unquestioned integrity. I'm talking about Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. I'll repeat that number again, 436-5636. Joel Heward, family and staff serving you, and Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Sunday coming up is a big, big day, and oh, how I miss my mother. And if you're lucky enough to have your mom, you'd better treat her right. And don't forget to stop over to Nature Nursery and Market at 120 East Highway 81 in Burley. Mother's Day sale. Put this on the calendar: Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, May 7, 8, and 9. And 10% off hanging baskets and select trees, 15% off the home decor items. And if you spend over $150 $50, you get a free gift. Oh, my! Customer service at its best. Right there at Nature Nursery and Market. Easy to find, 120 East Highway 81 in Burley. Don't forget, Happy Mother's Day from Nature Nursery and Market. Well, we're going to be going to our next guest momentarily. Excuse me, got that old frog back in my throat again. Going to be a great day weather-wise. Tomorrow, not so good. It's going to be really windy. Highs probably in the high 60s, but 50-mile-an-hour winds. Look out. Want to remind you about our friends over at Let's Ride. I had a really good talk with Randy last week on the program, and as you know, Let's Ride, located at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. This is where the fun is sold. They've got all the side-by-sides and the four-wheelers, and they've got rebates on those items right now. I mean, get ready to take to the trails up in the hills, check out all the side-by-sides and the four-wheelers, and by the way, if you already have some four-wheelers, get a hold of their excellent service department and have your four-wheeler serviced before you head for the hills. They're open Monday through Friday 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 2. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, and it's true. This is where the fun is sold. Also, over in that area, some other folks that are so service-oriented, and that's, of course, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Every time you talk to Todd, I mean, absolutely, he just bubbles and bubbles with service. He wants to help people. He's devoted to serving people. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more. And really, all you need to do is just call the number and make an appointment, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424, the best. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Yep, serving you. Let's go to the phone line right now. And with us is a gentleman, I don't think he has ever been on the program before, but I want to tell you that I'm looking forward to our conversation. He is the author of a brand new book, and I absolutely believe in this, Why We Must Defend the Electoral College. Trent England, how are you?
I'm doing well, Zeb. Thanks so much for having me on the program.
It's nice to talk to somebody that's got some common sense about our Electoral College, because the loony left wants to throw it in the trash barrel.
No, that's right. I mean, this has been something that ever since Al Gore lost in 2000 has been in the crosshairs, and the left has come up with a really clever strategy to try to hijack the whole thing. So it's just important to tell the American people the story of this constitutional structure that's so important. But, frankly, I think it works so well that people don't have to think about it, and we've kind of forgotten about it.
Okay, let's go from the get-go on this, Trent. I know you explain this in your book, Why We Must Defend the Electoral College, but take it from the get-go. Where did the insidious evil left come up with this diabolic plan to get rid of this, the way we vote? How did all this come about?
Yeah, so they, the folks on the left have disliked the Electoral College for a long time. By one count, there's been over 700 constitutional amendments introduced in Congress to try to either, change or eliminate the Electoral College. But obviously, the American founders made it hard to change the Constitution. God bless them. So the left has tried to find another way. And here's what they're doing. They have come up with state legislation that changes how presidential electors get chosen in the states. Now, right now every state has a vote, right? Idaho votes in November, and that determines how Idaho's presidential electors and electoral votes go, right? So if Idaho votes for Trump, then Idaho's electoral votes go for Trump. The left wants to change that, and they're pushing this plan that's called National Popular Vote that would basically have states give away their electoral votes based on the popular vote. And if folks think that through, it's basically a hijacking of the Electoral College to turn it into something that, if Idaho passed this, then basically Idaho's electoral votes would be given away, And states like California and New York would have more power over Idaho's electoral votes than voters in Idaho do, because there's a lot more voters in California. There's more voters in L.A. County than there are in the entire state of Idaho, right? And so this is as you say, it is a diabolical scheme to really hijack something in the Constitution without people ever really even knowing that this is going on, because they're able to do it with state legislation, and they are actually almost 75% of the way there. They have 73% of the states, the electoral votes that they need in this national popular vote plan to hijack the whole thing. So, I mean, it is a real threat to our republic.
Okay, I'm going to ask you kind of a series of questions lumped into one. Who is the they that are promoting this? And also, why all of a sudden is this coming more to the forefront? And where is our education system? Why aren't they standing up and going, wait a minute? Answer all those if you could.
Yeah, sure thing. So the man who more than anyone else is behind this is named John Koza. He invented this scratch-off lottery ticket back in the 1970s. If you believe that, I mean this is the one guy in the country who wins on every scratch ticket, and he has taken his massive fortune and plowed it into this effort to hijack the Electoral College. So he's the number one funder and runs the campaign out of his office in San Francisco. And Jonathan Soros, who is George Soros' son, is another big contributor to this effort. So those are the people who are primarily behind it. Also, some liberal law professors who helped come up with all of this. You asked about our education system. I mean, this is why I wrote the book. People just don't know the story of the Electoral College, and it's really two stories. One is the story of where it came from, which is really interesting and actually even a little bit funny when you go back and read the debates of the Constitutional Convention. And the other is the story about how it has worked through American history and how it just has worked so well. It's protected us from vote fraud in the past. It has protected us from disastrous uncertainty about who the rightly elected president really was. But the sad thing is that we don't really teach history and civics anymore in many of our schools, at least. I'm sure some of your schools up in Idaho do a better job. I know we have some schools in Oklahoma that do a good job here, but so many of our schools have failed us. And, I think part of it is the progressive leftist project, right? They want to destroy our history. They don't, unless you know your history, you can't figure out where you're going, and you're just going to be led around by the nose by these progressive elites, right? That's what they want. They don't want Americans to have heroes. They don't want us to understand our founding and the genius of the people who created our Constitution. Because if we understand those things, we'll stand up for our rights and we'll stand up for our Constitution. And so, this is the challenge that we face. We have got to educate Americans or we will lose our Constitution.
Trent, let me say a statement, and please feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong or I've misstated it. But states like Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North and South Dakota, and your smaller states, they might as well on election day just stay home and watch the soap opera as the world turns, because our voice doesn't count if the Electoral College is eliminated.
Oh, that's absolutely right. When the founders were debating this all the way back at the Constitutional Convention, they talked about the idea of having a national popular vote. This isn't something that they never thought about. They thought about it really hard, and what James Madison said was this. He said, look, that idea is really attractive. And Madison, at part of the convention, he kind of pushed it. He liked the idea of a popular vote better than a parliamentary system, like the way Canada works, right? But he ultimately said the problem with that is the biggest population centers, the biggest states, the biggest cities would wind up controlling the executive branch, and everybody else would be left out. And that is not the way to design a successful political system. It's not the way to engage people around the country and pull the country together, right? That would be terribly divisive because, like you say, Zeb, I mean, people in Idaho would just be left out of the whole process.
Yeah.
And so we have this electoral college that says, look, I mean, to be a credible political party and a credible presidential candidate, you have to have a lot of support from across the country. The big cities aren't enough. The coasts aren't enough. Rural areas aren't enough, right? You have to have a big, diverse coalition or you don't stand a chance.
Let me ask you this. I'm sure that on behalf of you being Executive Vice President and Director of Save Our States, that you have had numerous opportunities to sit and debate with those on the other side. Are you able to get your point across, and are you changing hearts and minds when they listen to common sense?
You know, I think that we are. I actually had an opportunity last fall to debate this topic in New York City, right in Manhattan, at a venerable old college called the Cooper Union, and people there were overwhelmingly on the other side. And after that debate, I had people coming up to me saying, you know, I never thought this through. I didn't understand the history of it, and person after person saying, yeah, now that I understand more about this, I'm going to have to think more about my position on it. And I mean, we've had legislators actually. This is the most rewarding thing. Going into state capitals, I've been doing this for 11 years now, meeting with legislators, and I'll meet with anybody. I love to meet with the state legislators who are pushing this anti-electoral college legislation. Because oftentimes they really, they've been cheated by their own education, right? They don't know this history. And I've had some, not all, but some legislators who I'll sit down, I'll talk with them for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and they will go and take their name off that bill and say, I don't want anything to do with this. It is bad for our country. It's bad for our republic. So we are slowly winning hearts and minds to support the Electoral College and just to support the idea of states in our federal republic, this genius structure that the American founders gave us that protects the people of Idaho and Oklahoma and everybody else.
Trent, let me ask you this, and I'm very blunt on this program. Have we let this fester, this cancer grow too much and too long, and the bus is headed over a cliff like Thelma and Louise, or can we turn it around before we go over the edge?
We can turn it around. I really believe that on the Electoral College, although I do think I describe this as a toothpaste issue because it is something where if the other side wins, if they get rid of the Electoral College, we will never get it back, right? Once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't put it back. But I do believe that we can win because of what we've seen, meeting with state legislators and meeting with other Americans and talking about, just educating people about this. I think a lot of Americans actually are hungry to understand our history, and I saw some public opinion polling last year that showed the kind of Americans who really are hardcore progressives, AOC supporting political correctness folks. It's like 8% of the population. Now they're the loudest 8%. They are loud and obnoxious and in your face, and they are way overrepresented in the media because they're in LA and they're in New York, but there is a much larger group of Americans who I think once they understand what's going on, we can stop this and we can actually push it back. Just about a month ago, South Dakota passed a resolution supporting the Electoral College and condemning national popular vote. We've seen legislators push that in Missouri and in Wyoming and in Florida and in New Hampshire. And, all of that kind of pushback and going on the offense against national popular vote is really new in the last couple of years. So I'm actually really optimistic that we can win this fight.
Okay, before I get to your book and more about what we can do, you brought up Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She is my least favorite bartender of all time. I think she has the intelligence of an apple. And when she came out and said that the Electoral College is racist, would you please tell this old cowboy how in the world could it be construed as racist?
Well, the best way to figure out what parts of the Constitution are racist is any part of the Constitution that the left doesn't like. Surely the left is going to claim is racist. I mean, I think that's actually the only thread that kind of weaves through all of the claims that they make, because everything that they don't like, they say is racist. The reality is just the opposite. I mean, the Electoral College, yes, slavery, race-based slavery, was the original sin of our country, right? It was something that took hundreds of thousands of lives to extirpate, right? So this was a terrible thing. The reality of the Electoral College is that it actually has served the cause of civil rights. It actually prevented racist vote suppression back in the late 19th century from stealing presidential elections. So, if folks like AOC would actually learn their history, they would understand that, they're on the wrong side of this whole thing, right? The Electoral College actually is really good for the cause of civil rights in our country, at least, civil rights rightly understood.
What would you tell me as a talk show host that I can relate to the audience, and you can start right now? What does the American public need to do to make sure that the left loons don't take over and dispose of our Electoral College?
So the number one thing that people need to do is to educate themselves about the Electoral College so that they can educate the people around them. I mean, this is something where, as you pointed out, Zeb, right at the beginning, most Americans just don't know anything about it. That's a challenge, but it's a huge opportunity, because we can be the ones who educate folks about this, right? They don't have to hear about it from AOC. They can hear about it from you and me and get the real story. And as we do that, that's really powerful. The second thing is to stay in touch with your state legislators, and I guarantee, well, I know this is true in Idaho, Idaho state legislators have been lobbied by National Popular Vote. They invite legislators on all expenses paid trips to Hawaii and to Florida and to Puerto Rico and a fancy resort down in southern Utah. NPV, this National Popular Vote campaign, spares no expense to wine and dine legislators. And they need to know that their constituents are watching, that their voters are concerned about this. So, I mean, if every one of your listeners would just drop a quick email or leave a voicemail for their state representative and their state senator and say, hey, I heard there's this anti-electoral college thing out there. I hope that you will support the Electoral College and oppose National Popular Vote. That is so helpful. I mean, over and over again, we've stopped National Popular Vote just with a few dozen phone calls to state legislators that make them realize, hey, these expensive lobbyists are out here on one side, but the people actually in my district who vote for me are on the other side, and that can win the day.
All right, now let's dovetail right into the book, Why We Must Defend the Electoral College. Where can the book be purchased? And give us kind of a genesis of how it started and what you want the reader to take away once they've read the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Why We Must Defend the Electoral College. It's up on Amazon. People can get it on their Kindle, or they can order it. I actually saw it says it's back ordered, but I know if you order it today, it'll be back ordered for just a couple of days. They had a lot of pre-orders for the book, so it's up on Amazon. It should be at local bookstores too. I was asked last year by Hillsdale College to give a speech that kind of summed up the reasons for the Electoral College. And that became the genesis of this book, really because I had a lot of fun telling the story of how we got the Electoral College and how it has worked through history. I love our history, and I love the fact that you can go back and you can read the records of the Constitutional Convention. You can read these debates, And one of the things I discovered is that this debate over how to elect a president, probably the only recorded joke at the Constitutional Convention, was made in the course of this debate because they had all kinds of wacky ideas about how to elect a president because they really just weren't sure. And I love the fact that the American founders were creative, they were open to kind of coming up with some kind of wacky ideas and out-of-the-box ideas, and then ultimately they came up with the Electoral College, which they realized right at the end of the Constitutional Convention. It's almost like a cliffhanger. They get right until everything else in the Constitution is done, and they've got to finish this one last really important thing, and they come up with it. They all kind of step back and look at it and say, this is a really good idea. This looks like it really will work well. And then they pass it on to us, and we get to look at it and evaluate it in the light of history, and and kind of play our role as Americans in evaluating the work that our founders did. And I think folks who read the book will discover that this is really stood the test of time. I mean, it is an amazing constitutional structure that we have been given that works really well for people in Idaho and everywhere else.
Trent, I need to get a copy of this as soon as possible, read it, and have you back on the program, because I want to make a concentrated effort of keeping this in front of my public, my audience. And again, tell everybody where they can get a copy. Why We Must Defend the Electoral College by Trent England. Tell everybody quickly one more time.
Yes, it's up on Amazon. People can also go to SaveOurStates.com, and we should have a blog post up there with a link. But yeah, SaveOurStates.com, or just go to Amazon and Why We Must Defend the Electoral College. And Zeb, I'd be glad to come back on the show, and maybe next time I'm on, we could give away a couple free copies of the book or something.
Absolutely. If you can help expedite a copy to me, I'll make sure that is happening. And I want to thank you for coming on the program. Trent England was Executive Vice President and Director of Save Our States, and the book, again, Why We Must Defend the Electoral College. God bless you, sir. Have a great day, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sam.
All right, sir. Absolutely a must read right there about the Electoral College and Trent England. I appreciate him being on the program. I will get a copy, and we will talk about this more in the future. I guarantee it. Holy smokes, time for the weather. Actually, as usual, yours truly running late. Weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And I want to stress, like I said the first hour, they have the best people, and they are the professionals, providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area and beyond for over 50 years. Tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, bookkeeping services, retirement planning. I'm talking about people that really, really care and are involved. And I know our accountant over there, Lyden Crane, nobody better. The whole staff, absolutely the professionals at Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunny skies for today, definitely windy for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting a mostly sunny skies for today. It's going to be nice, high of 75. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low 46. Now for tomorrow, we are going to be in a wind advisory, gusts as high as 50 miles an hour out of the west. Steady at about 35 miles an hour, mostly sunny skies, high of 67. Looks like areas of blowing dust for tomorrow night. Before 9 o'clock in the evening, we are expecting a low of 35. Winds are going to be dying down, hopefully, by Thursday. Sunny skies, high of 65. Mostly clear for Thursday night, low of 35. Then by Friday, mostly sunny and 70. That's what's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I tell you, folks, you want to make sure that you are taking care of business for you, your family, and your business. And that's where the accounting services of Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company come in. Serving you for well over 50 years, they are the best at what they do. Offices at 625th Street in Rupert and 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Wow. Really enjoyed that conversation with Trent England, and it just it astounds me. It astounds me how we can have politicians that are really, and I'm going to be blunt, stupid about not knowing the value of the Electoral College and the fairness and the equity it provides for our voting system in the United States of America. And anyone that would be bought off by those groups that want to get rid of it, I hope they're voted out of office. Absolutely. I want to give a great big shout out to Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service and tree trimming and shrub trimming. And if you haven't had your fruit trees trimmed, you better take care of it because his people know. They know all about this. I mean, Scott's originally from, I think, New York State, and he grew up and he really knows trees. Upper New York State, I mean, you're talking trees. He understands what's going on. So believe me, give him a call at 438-2485. I'll say it again, 438-2485. The best serving you, Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service and Tree Trimming, 438-2485. Wow, it's been a great morning, and I appreciate all the calls and everything. Let's see what else have we got to mention. I had another little news note I needed to get on, and let's see what... Oh, I wanted to mention that this coronavirus, it's going to have a second time around. There's going to be another dance with this. And we cannot crawl back into a cave. The peak, they say, of the coronavirus may not come until June. But I absolutely tell everybody, stay strong, stay safe, be aware, use all the precautions, but we've got to live. We've got to live. And we have to be productive. I absolutely urge everyone to use caution. Wear a face mask if you're out in public, social distancing, and, of course, hand sanitizers. But we have to live. We have to get back to work. And I absolutely say this for the churches, the restaurants, everything. I want them open. We have to thrive to survive. We're going to take a little break right now and send it over to Wheels in just a moment for the CBS News. Coming up next hour, we've got Dr. History via the telephone, and I hope it's the last doggone time we do it on the telephone. I want him in the studio. And then at 10:30 this morning, Karen Strawn, and we're going to be talking about men being wussies and Joe Biden and that mess and everything. She's very outspoken, and I'll look forward to it. Right now, Wheels, it's all yours. Oh, my goodness sakes. Good morning on this Tuesday, May the 5th, and welcome back to Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations are open and serving you with a very safe, clean environment and the best in tires and service to you and your automobiles. Stop in and see your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. And also, don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And, of course, our friends at Greystone Crossing Senior Living. Oh, my. I went over there, it's been months ago now. We took the guided tour of this beautiful, brand new place with all the rooms and the kitchen area and the social area. My goodness sakes, seniors, listen to me. This is a 12-bedroom home that you need to find out more about. And I'm going to give you a number right now. I want you to write it down and call Matt or Kelly Wiggins for a guided tour and appointment to see the beautiful surroundings of Greystone Crossing. The number is 650-4979. That number again, 650-4979. Please. 3 meals a day, along with all the snacks and the housekeeping and local transportation. Better check it out. Greystone Crossing Senior Living, 1221 21st Street in Hayburn, where seniors are living the good life with friends. Let's not also forget our friends at 7K Metals. Oh, you know what? You see and hear so much about silver purchases right now, a very valuable commodity. 7K Metals can help you build your financial security and future. That's right. It's a savings opportunity for you and a valued treasure for your loved ones in the future. I urge you to find out a whole bunch more. Contact a couple of friends of mine, Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon Wilmot at 430-3259. And please tell them I told you to call. Absolutely the best in helping you build your own security bank through silver purchases with 7K Metals. Wheels, could we please have the good word for our May 19th primary?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Senator Kelly Anthon to explain this year's voting by mail.
The outcome of every election we have is determined by who shows up to vote. This year, Idaho's primary election is a mail-in only election. It's not ideal, and it's not the way we'd like to do it. But your vote does make a difference for all of us in Idaho. So please, first request a ballot, then mail it in, and make your voice heard. This message is paid for by the Anthem for Idaho Senate campaign.
Thank you very much, Senator Anthon. And Wheels, if you could boost the feed line to me just a touch, old partner, I'd appreciate it. And right now, via the telephone line, I hope for the last time, and we can start doing this thing in person in the studio, here is the one, the only, Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Sun's shining. The wind's not blowing. Hey, things are looking good.
Yeah, but wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
You know, you've had some outstanding stories as of late, and you never let us down. And what are we going to talk about this morning?
We're going to talk about Fort Walla Walla, Washington, and an incident that took place up there.
Oh, I've been there many, many times.
Yeah, not too far from us here, but...
Yep.
So we're going to start off, it's April of 1891, and picture this. There's a lot of madness and anger that was among the troops, members of Troop D, 4th U.S. Cavalry at Fort Walla Walla, Washington, because one of their own, Private Emmett L. Miller, lay dying in the post hospital on April 23rd, 1891. The previous evening, gambler A.J. Hunt had shot Miller at a place called Rosa's Saloon in town, and now Sheriff McFarland had the suspect, Hunt, at Miller's bedside, and Miller identified the gambler as the guy that had shot him.
Oh, boy.
Now, Miller's comrades were in no mood to show mercy. While Sheriff McFarland, a deputy, and a notary public were taking Miller's statement, a drunk soldier walked up to the driver of the sheriff's buggy at the main gate of the post, and the loudmouth soldier bragged that 50 cavalrymen were hidden beyond the gate, ready to ambush the party on its return to town.
Wow.
Now, the driver informed the sheriff, McFarland, who wisely asked the post commander, Colonel Compton, for an armed escort. And Colonel Compton ordered the officer of the day and 5 members of the guard detachment to accompany the sheriff and his prisoner into town. Well, soon after the sheriff's party passed the gate, there was some kind of shadowy figures that came out from either side of the road. The buggy stopped, and the officer of the day, this Captain Wint, asked what they wanted. Well, a spokesman demanded Hunt, the guy, the killer, the shooter, to be turned over to them. Well, they were badly outnumbered, and Wint told the driver to turn around and make a dash for the guardhouse. So the driver complied, and they took off with the mob in hot pursuit. And once inside, Sheriff McFarland asked again Colonel Compton whether the prisoner might be detained in the guardhouse until morning. But the colonel, he was kind of anxious to avoid a confrontation on the post, so he offered a 25-man escort to accompany them back to town. Now, the sheriff and a larger escort party now made it to Walla Walla without any problems. But the tensions flared the next morning as word of the failed attempt to snatch the gambler spread throughout town. And a lot of the citizens speculated that Miller's angry soldier friends would again try to get their hands on Hunt. And as a precaution, Sheriff McFarland deputized 6 additional men, all heavily armed, and posted them at the jail. Now, vigilante groups were common enough in the Wild West. We've talked about that before. They, the working class and the rural populations, particularly, they kind of advocated a kind of a rough justice. They hung a few people up that probably needed it, and maybe a few that didn't. But, these generally upstanding people believed true justice was vested in the citizens and was to be administered as such. Well, mob action, however, was not commonplace in the regular army, which, they had strict discipline. They adhered to the law and avoiding any involvement in citizen or civilian matters because they didn't have any authorization. But anyway, what mob action existed among the regulars, the army, can be distinguished from that of civilians by a subtle factor best described as, quote, the honor of the cloth. In other words, have you heard that term? We take care of our own?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. But the military experience instilled in men a sense of group loyalty, such that an offense by civilians against even a single soldier could spark a pretty good reaction by the troops. And, for example, at Fort Davis, Texas, in 1860, members of the 8th Infantry hanged a civilian who had murdered one of their comrades during a drunken fight. Well, and in 1881, 10th Cavalry at Fort Concho rebelled and shot up a local hotel in nearby San Angelo in revenge for the senseless murder of a fellow trooper. So now, in a typically kind of quiet little town of Walla Walla in 1891, the 4th Cavalrymen readied themselves for a little help with the this hunt guy that killed, had shot their friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go back to the beginning, how this all started. So on Wednesday evening, April 22nd, the friendly 32-year-old Private Miller and his friend Private Cutter were sharing drinks in Rose's Saloon with a guy named Edward McGann, a recently retired soldier. Anyway, their conversation turned to the 1st Cavalry, in which Miller had served the first of his 3 enlistments. And overhearing the trio, this gambler, Andrew J. Hunt, kind of an older guy, usually soft-spoken gambler, longtime resident of Walla Walla, he kind of suddenly spoke out, and he said, quote, all the soldiers of the 1st Cavalry were sons of guns. That's
now,
exactly what he said.
May I interrupt you for a moment? And
sure.
Was it a direct quote, sons of guns?
That's the way I've got it written here, Zeb. I'm sure that's what he said. So Miller quickly responded. He said, quote, I was a 1st Cavalryman. I am one of them. Well, then Miller pushed the gambler aside, saying that he didn't want any trouble. And the gambler said again, quote, you will push me, you son of a gun.
Uh-huh.
And with that, the gambler pulled the pistol from beneath his coat and shot the trooper in the chest.
Oh, my.
Poor Miller just crumpled to the floor. Well, the city police immediately arrived, and they arrested Hunt. The following day, County Attorney Blanford swore out a warrant against the gambler, who was then turned over to Sheriff McFarland and transferred to the county jail. So at about 7 p.m., there was a Major Corper, the post surgeon. He arrived to inform the sheriff that Miller was barely alive, paralyzed from the chest down, and he was going downhill pretty fast. So the doctor recommended that if Sheriff McFarland intended to obtain a deposition from this dying trooper, he better get it done in a hurry. And so the sheriff, accompanied by the prisoner, a deputy, and a notary public, headed to the Fort Hospital. Returning to the jail with Hunt proved more difficult because the soldiers, they hadn't been able to do anything the night before, but it doesn't mean they weren't going to try again to get to this at the shooter. So anyway, Friday afternoon, the 24th, the judge postponed a preliminary hearing. Surprisingly, the townspeople found soldiers on the streets in a kind of a good mood, though they may have been doing this to dispel rumors that they might want to attack the jail. And so, seeking to reduce tension, Sheriff McFarland and the county attorney asked Colonel Compton to restrict the entire garrison to the post that night, Well, the colonel said, no, that's not going to work. There's no way that I can enforce all those men to stay at the fort tonight. So picture this. It's a cool moonlight night, kind of a peaceful time in Walla Walla. The troops had been laying a plan with military precision, and at a given signal, they cut the telephone line connecting the fort with town. Then, as if on a drill field, a column of some 200 soldiers quickly and without spoken orders quick-timed it into town, and they basically ran into town, and they cordoned off the courthouse. A second detachment filed inside the picket fence around the jail. Other soldiers armed with carbines took up stations at street intersections on the corners of the square, and these guards ordered civilian curiosity seekers to keep their distance. Well, all this activity kind of electrified the townspeople, who poured out of the saloons, the stores, and the homes to see what was going on. When one group boldly tried to cross the street to the courthouse, the sentries brought their carbines into ready and said, you may want to consider not coming around here right now. So the citizens backed down. Well, within minutes, the soldiers had secured the courthouse, and about 9 o'clock that night, a separate assault force approached the front door of the jail on the subfloor beneath the main stairs of this brick courthouse. For the 5 officers inside the jail, this is the first sign that anything was going wrong when they heard footsteps on the pavement outside, which was quickly followed by loud beating on the door, and a voice commanded the sheriff to open up. They wanted Hunt, and when Sheriff McFarland refused, the soldiers said, well, we'll just blow you up. We've got some dynamite here. Well, Sheriff McFarland was kind of inclined at this point to agree, but he had a deputy named George Thomas, and he suggested the deputies hold off the intruders with their Winchesters while Sheriff McFarland and the shooter Hunt make their escape up another stairway to the courthouse. Now, at that time, the soldiers tried to force the door, one of them shouting, quote, we'll kill every son of a gun in the building.
Every son of a gun!
What's that?
I said every son of a gun!
Yeah, every one of them. So the sheriff asked the soldiers to reconsider, that Hunt would get a fair trial, but his words had no effect, and just after the guards fell back to the cell block for a desperate defense, the soldiers set off a loud explosion outside and repeated their threat to blow up the courthouse with dynamite.
Wow.
So they just blew it up outside just to, let them know they had it. So Sheriff McFarland's nerve failed. He unlocked the heavy door. 15 or 20 soldiers, some wearing masks, shoved their way in, sticking revolvers in the faces of the deputies. And anyway, the intruders found the deputies. They took their guns and ushered them outside at gunpoint. Several soldiers held Sheriff McFarland by his arms and pushed him ahead into the cell block. The vigilante leader ordered the sheriff to point out the cell that where Hunt was being held. Well, the soldiers found the keys, opened the heavy wooden door, and dragged the prisoner outside. All the while, Hunt remained kind of quiet, except he was heard to mutter, quote, I guess my time has come.
Oh, my.
And, yeah, it was. So as the mob emerged from beneath the overarching stairs leading to the main floor of the courthouse, one of the soldiers shoved the gambler into the yard. A gunshot cracked, and Hunt collapsed face down. Dozens of other soldiers immediately ran up and fired their guns either into his body or into the air just for effect. And maybe 100 shots rang out across town. But the incident lasted only a few minutes, and as quickly and as silently as they had assembled, the soldiers vanished into the dark. Now, a few citizens kind of approached the body laying on the courthouse lawn, and bending closer, someone struck a match, and it revealed Hunt's bullet-ridden body, and there was no need to call a doctor at that point. So, meanwhile, aware of the commotion in town, Colonel Compton considered sounding what they call assembly to conduct a roll call of his troops. But strangely enough, he couldn't find any trumpeters to sound the assembly.
They couldn't find the bugle?
They couldn't find the buglers. He couldn't find anybody. So the bedtime roll call, all of the men were back at the post by that time. Two reporters from the Walla Walla Daily Union came by shortly after, and they were unable to locate any enlisted men, all said to be, quote, in bed and not gettable. So they couldn't find anybody to interview. So as Saturday the 25th dawned, men, women, and children congregated on the courthouse lawn to hear the latest version of the previous night's events. And the central attraction was this blood stain on the grass, and noticeably absent were uniformed soldiers, although the streets later that day, townspeople recognized at least 100 troopers dressed in civilian clothes, probably wanting to see what was happening, I guess. Meanwhile, the coroner held an inquest on Hunt's body. The doctor in charge, Dr. Russell, determined the gambler's death had resulted from no less than 16 bullet wounds, 8 or 9 which were in the head. At that, some wounds were so close together that Russell couldn't determine how many bullets had actually struck Hunt. So the inquest confirmed the obvious. Hunt had died, quote, of gunshot wounds by the hands of a mob, supposedly to be soldiers, as they were dressed in Army uniform, but to us unknown. So the mortician placed Hunt's remains on public display. They had the body buried in the city cemetery because members of Walla Walla's gambling establishment took up a collection to cover the expenses. And the post surgeon, Dr. Kerper, last spoke with Private Miller at about 10 o'clock on Monday morning, the 27th. So he was still alive at this point.
I see.
But soon thereafter, the soldier drifted into unconsciousness and died. His funeral with full military honors took place the following afternoon. The 4th Cavalry Band led the procession to the post cemetery.
They found the bugler, right?
8 privates from Miller's troop.
Okay.
The chaplain and the surgeon. Behind the hearse were 6 pallbearers from Troop D and another member leading Miller's horse with full equipment with boots reversed in the stirrups. And you've seen this before, Zeb, where they honor a fallen cowboy or whatever, where they put their boots in the stirrups facing backwards.
Absolutely, yes.
So, but the rest of Miller's troop followed, and behind them came the other 3 companies that rounded out the Walla Walla garrison. And bringing up the rear was a large contingent of townspeople who came to pay their respects. And after a brief service, Miller's remains were consigned to the grave, over which the escort fired the traditional volleys. Now, you may wonder, did anything happen? Well, the county attorney, a guy named Blanford, accused Colonel Compton of criminal negligence for not restricting his men to the garrison. And feeling among the citizens, however, that the soldiers actually did a good thing, even though maybe they shouldn't have done it. But then President Benjamin Harrison ordered a court of inquiry. They had a grand jury. They eventually handed up an indictment against 6 of the troopers. They were arrested and confined in the county jail, and the jury rendered a verdict of not guilty for all 6 men that were involved, I guess, or the ringleaders, or whatever you want to call them.
Wow.
So that's the story of Walla Walla, Washington, and what happened up there with the soldiers.
Yeah, and they finally found the bugler.
Yeah, I think they did, and I guess he found his bugle because he played at the funeral for the Miller guy that got shot.
You know, I always felt sorry for the bugler in all the Western movies, the John Wayne movies, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, Fort Apache and all that. Here stands this guy, all puckered up, trying to play a bugle when you've got an Indian attack and you're getting shot at with arrows and bullets and everything else. I mean, you talk about a guy that ought to be really getting superior pay.
Well, and not only that, but keep in mind he's also probably riding at a full gallop on his horse, trying to hold the reins and watch where he's going and blow that bugle.
Yeah, I mean, how do you carry a tune under those circumstances?
Well, I can't carry a tune no matter what, but Yeah, I've tried to blow a bugle, and I can't even get a squeak out.
Oh, my gosh. I often wondered. I was watching a John Wayne movie the other night. It was Rio Grande, and the bugler was out there tooting that horn and everything, and I thought, that's amazing when you got Indians that are shooting at you, and your life is in jeopardy, and you're out there. How do they do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they just took somebody that didn't know how to shoot and said, here, blow this bugle. I don't know.
I don't know why they couldn't have gone over to Patterson's Electronics and just bought a sound system and played it.
Yeah, that's what I'd have had to do.
Okay.
So, and I guarantee if I was on the bugler, I'd be way out in front of all the other cowboys.
That depends. If you're going towards the enemy, I'd be way in back trying to scorch out a tune a little bit if you don't mind.
I meant heading the opposite direction.
I see. Okay. Dr. History, that was an interesting story, and it took place, you said, in 1891.
Yeah, yep.
That wasn't that many years before you were born.
No, I almost remember it.
Yeah. Doc, thank you. Excellent job. Thank you so much.
Right, you have a good day.
Dr. History, outstanding. A story about Fort Walla Walla, and I enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Mentioned our friends over at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. I'll tell you what, when it comes to they can put that on tape of all their different car stereos and speakers and complete audio systems, complete sound systems, all their home theater systems, video surveillance cameras, everything electronic is right there at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. And they're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, closed on Sundays. Really nice people, caring people. Curtis and Lorena and the staff serving you at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. Thank you very much. Another business I want to highlight before we send it over to Wheels, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. They are open for business, regular hours, absolutely. 40 to 50% off, 40 to 50% off on everything. Lee's Furniture is doing spring cleaning from floor covering to furniture. Everything is on sale. So for the beautification and comfortization of your home, Lee's Furniture is the place to go right now. Right now, they're back on regular hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, Saturdays, 10 to 4. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. Wheels, old pal, take it away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, my goodness sakes. Listen. I'm going to talk about a business right now where the business is for sale. It's a great business opportunity for maybe you. Absolutely. It's a turnkey business. What does that mean? You turn the key in the lock. Voila. It's all there. Everything you need at Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair at 635 21st Street in Heyburn. He's selling the business, and he will train the buyer the business of rebuilding starters and all the repair. I'm telling you, this is a great business opportunity for you. Check it out. Call the number 878-4991 or after hours 431-5282. Selling the business. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair, 635 21st Street in Heyburn. You get a hold of Doug today. Absolutely. Right now, we're going to have back on the program a lady that she's been here 3, 4, 5 times in the past. She's very outspoken, and I love it. She tells it like it is, and she's a critic of feminism and an advocate for men's rights. And here she is from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, Karen Strawn. Karen, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on again.
Well, how's everything up in your neck of the woods?
Oh, it's sunny. It's beautiful. People are out. It's like I'm watching some of the stuff going on down in the U.S., and I'm thinking, like, I haven't even seen a cop in 6 weeks. And I'm looking at teenagers not social distancing, skateboarding down the street, and nobody's bothering them, and people aren't wearing masks, and nobody's giving them the stink eye. And And I'm looking at what's going on down in the U.S., and I'm kind of, I'm a little bit concerned for you guys. I thought you were the ones that had an actual constitution. We're the ones who have, like, a piece of paper you could wipe your bum with.
You know, I wanted to ask you about that, Karen. Thank you for bringing that up this morning, because what are the circumstances, or what is the severity of what your government in Canada thinks about the coronavirus? What's the status up there?
Oh, well, we've got our big relief bill, and, you know, we've essential workers only, you know, restaurants are still operating, but no dine-in service, and hair and nail salons and things like that are closed down. But we have a different definition of essential than, say, Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan. You know, like our garden stores are, you know, garden seeds and soil and all of that. That's all open. Our hardware stores, our paint stores. I think our government here is kind of like, well, if you're going to be cooped up in the house, you might as well get something useful done, and maybe even ensure some food security in the fall by planting a vegetable garden, and that's all a good idea. And, you know, get out and work in your yard and all of that stuff, right? You know, because, like, you're out working in the yard, you're surrounded by billions of cubic feet of air that's all moving in the sunshine. Nobody's going to get infected by you mowing your lawn. It's ridiculous, some of the measures that have been taken in some of the states in the U.S. and the fact that you know, I really hope Bill Barr kind of makes good on his pledge to maybe see some of these arbitrary and unconstitutional restrictions that are going on down there put a stop to them.
Well, when you see the idiocy, and I'm going to call it that, and the incompetency that's been displayed by Whitmer of Michigan and other governors, and the rights that have been trampled on, like you said, our Constitution, the First Amendment, and now going after also our Second Amendment, it's really scary. And someone that lives in Canada that can see down here and say what's going on and your concerns, it's amazing to me that more Americans haven't spoken up, but when we do, we're called Nazis by the liberal media.
I know. I mean, it's weird. Like, Canadians have kind of a malicious desire to be, like, extremely well-informed about America. You know, we're sort of like America's hat. We call you our underpants. And it's, you know, like, you guys are kind of benignly ill-informed about Canada. Why would you really need to know much about us? We're 33 million people or something like that, or 37 million. We're not a threat. We're just kind of a neighbor. And, you know, we've always kind of been, we've consumed your media, not, you know, your pop culture and your news media for years and years and years, right? So we keep up on what's going on down there. And I know that there are some provinces, like Quebec is very, very harsh with the lockdown and the restrictions and everything like that. Alberta is more like Canada's Texas. We're the most libertarian province in Canada, and we haven't really been that hard hit. Almost all of our deaths have been, you know, sort of nursing homes, things like that. So it's like, I go to the grocery store, and maybe 20% of the people I see are wearing a mask. So.
Okay. Karen, when you mentioned Alberta and you mentioned Saskatchewan, I would like you just to take a moment, if you would. There's been talk from some of my Canadian friends that there's a movement underway to try to pull away from the eastern provinces of Canada because they're fed up with Trudeau and they're fed up with the government. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, you mean Wexit? Yeah, no, there is a movement, and it's not even Trudeau was just sort of the cherry on the poop sundae that the West has been fed for. You know, I mean, there have been some policy initiatives, you know, because Quebec and Ontario have essentially all the mouths to feed, which means that they have all of the votes, and we have a system in Canada of equalization. Right? So you have provinces are divided by public spending into have provinces and have not provinces. And you have to, in order to be a have province, you have to spend X amount of dollars on each citizen.
Right.
if you spend less than that, you're a have-not province, and you qualify for equalization payments from those have provinces. And Quebec has essentially been cooking its books since 1958 when this program was initiated. They've been cooking their books kind of like the way that the Chinese manipulate their currency in terms of spending. So Alberta, even when we've run deficits and have had debts and been in recession and all of that, we have never been considered a have-not province. But Quebec has actually, every single year since inception of this program, they have been a have-not province and have received equalization payments from the rest of, from the provinces in Canada that have are deemed to have a surplus. And one of the things that got me was, when I heard 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, that children in Quebec, every child in Quebec under the age of 12 gets free dental care. And it's like, I'm like, even people who are living barely above the poverty line in Alberta, they don't qualify for free dental care for the kids.
Right.
And so you're sort of looking at it like we're sending money, buckets and buckets of money over to those people, and they have all the votes, so they keep voting to keep the system the way it is. And there are other policies that have really screwed over the West in favor of, you could buy Alberta beef for half the price in Ontario or Quebec years and years ago than you could buy it in Alberta. So just absolutely, and that's all government policy. So, I mean, you're sort of looking at, we have all the cows, and we have all the oil, and we have all the trees, and we have all the wheat, and we have all the, the fish, and we have all of this stuff, and the Eastern Canada has been fleecing us for decades, so.
Absolutely. Karen, as you know, that we have an election coming up in about 6 months, and I'm just going to state this, bear with me just for a second. All the trials and turmoil that President Trump has gone through since 2016, with all the allegations, all the phony dossiers, all the investigations, all the Mueller report, all the impeachment and everything else, and then all of a sudden, a virus is released, and this looks like it's going to be the straw that breaks the back of this administration and this country and its economy. And thus walks in the door a man that can't even put two sentences together as the Democratic nominee, Joe Biden. What are your thoughts?
Two sentences? I don't even think he can put one sentence together. Honestly, I've watched two men that I really care about succumb to dementia. And all I can say is that dude's marbles are rolling around in the parking lot. Watch your step, okay? Whoever you vote, if he's the nominee, the person you are voting for, if you're a Democrat, to be president is the vice president. He's not going to last. He's not going to be able to hack it. And then, you have this allegation and the, incredible double standards regarding the coverage. You look at Brett Kavanaugh, and you have Kirsten Gillibrand, and you have Kamala Harris, and you have all of these people who are, saying, I believe her, she deserves to be believed, I absolutely believe her. There was no evidence, there was no corroboration, nothing. There was just an allegation, right? A politically expedient allegation that came up at just the right time. And the Democrats were, me too, hashtag me too, hashtag believe women. And now it's like, you should assume that the accuser is disclosing in good faith, but you should, before you make a judgment, you should, go through some process of vetting when it comes to Joe Biden. And this is a woman who has more corroboration. She's got actual videotaped corroboration from CNN's Larry King Live. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, the double standard is just appalling, and it's not a double standard on the part of Republicans. I saw Trump say, he's going to need to address it, but who knows? It could be a false allegation. False allegations happen. I don't know if you knew that, and and I don't see Republicans jumping on a bandwagon of Biden definitely is a rapist. He's definitely a sexual predator, and so he can't be the nominee. I'm not seeing any of that. I've just seen a lot of criticism over Democrats not living up to their own standards.
Well, let me ask you this, though. I want to throw another fly in the milk, and that goes deeper than the sexual allegation against Biden. Is his son, Hunter, and the Chinese connections. I think there's a lot more in depth that we're not even hearing about or knowing about that the Democrats are scared we might find out about. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think there's plenty of reasons, regardless of this allegation, there's plenty of reasons to not vote for Joe Biden. And the Hunter Biden, and it's not just Hunter Biden and China or Hunter Biden and Ukraine. It's Joe Biden's brother cashed in a huge amount on some housing development in where was it, Iraq? And all of this while Biden was point man for these various countries, and his family is making huge amounts of money, not necessarily based on any experience or expertise that they have, just based on the connection to Joe Biden. And that doesn't necessarily mean Joe Biden was selling his office, but it certainly means that he was happy to allow people to attempt to purchase his office for their own gain. So it's like, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I look at what President Trump has to go through if a visiting foreign official stays at one of his hotels, right? He doesn't just not make money on that room. He loses money on that room because he has to abide by the emoluments clause. Mm-hmm. He has to, employ a team of lawyers and accountants to account for every penny from that stay.
That's right.
And submit it all to the Treasury in order to, and you can bet your sweet bippy that if he ever had a mishap or a mistake in the accounting, that it would be another impeachment trial, right? So he's staying on the proper side of the law there. And then I look at something like Joe Biden, and I'm like, the way his family has cashed in on his connections internationally that he had when he was vice president. And even before that, cashing in on certain connections when he was senator and things like that. So, I mean, there's plenty of reason to view Joe Biden as somebody that, is really not somebody that you would want in the most powerful position arguably in the world.
Let me ask you this. There has been so much talk about the vice presidential choice for nominee Biden, okay? The names range from Stacey Abrams, a failed governor attempt in Georgia. That woman scares me to death. And then you've got Elizabeth Warren. Some people say that she's even been selected already. You've got Kamala Harris. You've got a left that absolutely, if they're put in office, are going to change and transition America forever. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I was looking at some polls, and I noticed that Amy Klobuchar was one of the sort of the candidates on the short list, and she had the least approval rating in terms of which candidate Democrats would want. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, because she's the only one who actually makes any kind of fiscal sense. She's the one who upbraided Bernie over his, all of his plans, and she's like, how are we going to pay for that? Like, there's no way. It doesn't the math doesn't add up. It's just not going to happen. It's unrealistic. And so, of course, the Democrats don't like her because she's actually saying, money it doesn't grow on trees. It doesn't come out of a printer, right? It actually has to be generated through productivity. And so it's not free. There's no such thing as free money, and because of that, she's in last place on the short list in terms of popularity among Democrats, and I'm blown away by that. As somebody who's balanced my own checkbook for 49 years, most of that time, most of my adult life, while living at or under the poverty line. I know how money works, right? I became a homeowner while living at the poverty line because I know how money works. And I'm looking at, these pipe dreams of the far left Democrats, the Green New Deal, and let's forgive student debt, and on top of that, let's just make university free, and I'm thinking to myself, like, none of this is doable.
Right.
None of it is doable. So,
one final question, and please, I'm almost out of time. I got about 3 minutes left maximum. When you look at the likes of Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and others, including Nancy Pelosi, it looks like the Democratic Party is being led by very powerful feminists that want to turn this government and the people in this world upside down. What are your thoughts on these women?
oh, God, do you have another 2 hours for me to just unload my spleen on those women? The only thing that I can say about AOC, about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is that she seems to be sincere. She's a lunatic, but, like I have always said about Bernie, he seems to be sincere. He seems to not be intentionally lying to people. She seems to genuinely believe the insane things that come out of her mouth. But, none of those people are, Nancy Pelosi is just a snake. She's just an absolute dishonest snake. And Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, absolutely the same with them. I think that they're political animals. They're not this sort of naive woman who used to tend bar and at a taco place and got into politics, just kind of stumbled in. I don't think they're idealists. I think they're political opportunists.
Absolutely.
And I just pray. I pray, even though the challenger, the guy in Nancy Pelosi's district who's challenging her, I forget what his name is, even though he's even far further left than she is, I actually hope he manages to unseat her because at least he seems to be sincere in his belief.
I agree.
And she seems to be whatever belief is convenient at the moment and can, keep me in facelifts and fix a dent.
I love your approach. You are straight up honest. Karen Strawn, I got to have you back more often. Thank you for lightening up the program this morning. God bless you, and please, like I said, come back soon.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Critic of feminism and an advocate for men's rights based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And I really like that gal. Karen Strawn, she'll be back. You can bet on it. Oh, we better hurry and get the weather on before I run out of time. That clock on the wall dictates to us what we have to do and when. Our weather brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. And the telephone number to call Don and the crew over there, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, and you can check out all the delicious meats at Scarrows Meats. I mean, from the hams to the pork ribs to the tri-tips to the bacons to the, you name it, it's all there at Scarrows Meats in Jerome. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunny skies for today, definitely windy for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting a mostly sunny skies for today. It's going to be nice, high of 75. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low 46. Now for tomorrow, we are going to be in a wind advisory, gusts as high as 50 miles an hour out of the west. Steady at about 35 miles an hour, mostly sunny skies, high of 67. Looks like areas of blowing dust for tomorrow night. Before 9 o'clock in the evening, we are expecting a low of 35. Winds are going to be dying down, hopefully, by Thursday. Sunny skies, high of 65. Mostly clear for Thursday night, low of 35. Then by Friday, mostly sunny and 70. That's what's your weather forecast for Zeb Durant.
Thank you, Gina. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Thank you, Don. Thank you much. 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Before I go this morning, I've got to tell you, you may or may not have heard about this story, but did you hear, and it's true, that China, another reason why I absolutely detest China, is literally giving info drones where they can obtain information. They're giving the drones to our police departments in 22 states. And they say that it's going to help fight crime. But ask yourself, why would the Chinese want to give our police forces drones? Well, the reason, they can get all the intel. They can know and find out much more about us. In literal sense, they are spying on us with these drones that they give to our police forces. It's absolutely insane and makes us so much more vulnerable. And why? Why can't the police captains and the police forces understand? Just a simple no, we don't want your blank blank drones. Keep them over there. But 22 states have accepted the so-called gift of giving with the drones to police forces from China. Heaven help us. We're going to wrap it up for today and say thank you very much for tuning in. We always end the program by saying the way things were, the way things ought to be. And the 4 words that mean the most to me, in God we trust. And especially coming up on Thursday, it's going to be the National Day of Prayer. Once again on Thursday, May 7th, National Day of Prayer. We've got a lot to pray about. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 8:06. God bless you and your family. Stay safe. Zeb at the Ranch. See you tomorrow morning.